Carol Gorsach.
Before I begin, I want you to know I've been channeling Mary Shue. So I want to talk about item number 14. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Chancellor Miles, representatives to the Board of Governors, and fellow citizens. I'm Carol Gorsach, retired faculty member and senior vice chancellor from Pima Community College. In my current capacity, I serve as chair or convener of the Pima Open Admissions Coalition. This evening, I'm here to address agenda item 14, Prep Academy Pilot Program. The Prep Academy provides direct, non-credit instruction to students who fail to meet the minimum scores set at 7th grade in math, reading, and writing for entrance into credit-bearing courses. The cost listed for the purchase of computerized instructional software used by the Prep Academy is $60 per student for a total of amount of $150,000. Our issues of concern by POC are threefold. First, one of the first reasons the board indicated for the elimination of the lowest level of developmental courses were they were too costly to continue in the face of state reductions in state aid. Approximately 200 sections of developmental credit courses were deleted from the class. Using this figure and estimating or extrapolating, it looks that it might cost for the fiscal year about $750,000 to $1 million to run the Prep Academy. In this new era of openness and transparency, we are hopeful that the board will inform the public as to the full cost of the Prep Academy for 2012 through 13 and indicate the funding sources from which these expenditures are paid. Our second area of concern is the college administration is now recommending that the board authorize the purchase of instructional materials for the Prep Academy, a non-credit instructional program, by using surplus fees generated from students, and if we are wrong on this, you need to correct us when that item comes up, who are assessed, these are students who are assessed tuition and fees for credit classes. Revenues generated from student fees are used to fund instructional support services as advising, assessment centers, library services, learning centers, computer labs, tutors, athletics, among others. Typically, non-credit instruction is supposed to be self-supporting. The board decided to offer the Prep Academy for free, so funds to pay for the program must now come from somewhere else. Our third concern is that major public policy changes often result in unintended consequences, and further, recent board policy changes appear to be made under the radar. Now appear to be made under the radar. While the college has weathered the recent recession, if this policy continues in effect, some faculty may face retrenchment or layoffs in the areas of ESL and reading because of the significant declines in enrollments in those disciplines. And I say may. Is the board aware that the lowest level courses, the reading 71 and the writing 70, eliminated initially by your board policy, are now back in the class schedule? At least that's what we have been informed. No public announcement was made about the significant reversal in board policy or the reasons behind it, and it would be helpful if these kinds of changes were announced as they were when you made some other pilot changes to the program. So periodic announcements would be much more helpful. Tonight, on behalf of the coalition, I ask 4 questions of the Board of Governors. If we are correct in our interpretation, and we may not, do you believe it is fair to expect student revenue fees assessed on credit students to be redirected to a designated fund to subsidize the non-credit instructional Prep Academy instead of being used for their intended purposes? And if there are surplus student fees, is the board sufficiently confident that library services, computer labs, assessment centers, tutoring services, athletics, and other instructional support services are fully funded and no longer need those revenues? So that was one of our questions as you debate this particular agenda item. What other sources of college revenue did you consider to fund this contract? And please state why you might not have, or did you rule out those considerations for this contract? And then what is the full cost of the Prep Academy for the fiscal year? That would be helpful for us to know. And then finally, is the board willing to hold a study session, let's say before the semester ends, which is open to the public for input, for dialogue and discussion to determine the full impact, both intended and unintended, of the board's policy changes including data on student enrollments, their effect on potential faculty load, student characteristics, and fiscal expenditures. And I hope I did well by Mary Shue. Thank you.
Thank you.